Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ, breaking down the latest AP Top 25 poll for you. But what will the new college football playoff rankings look like? Here's what our own Brad Crawford predicts the final CFP rankings will be. Something that does stand out here: South Carolina is in there at 12, the first team out. So Brad is with us. Brad, the floor is yours. Break down these rankings for us, and please begin with the Gamecocks there at 12 and the first team out and what that really means.
Yeah, the Gamecocks have done everything in their power during the month of November to make this final college football playoff top 12. They beat 5 teams, 3 inside the top 25. They did so convincingly. This last win punctuated with a road victory at Clemson, who I think could also win the ACC. However, I've got SMU getting the ACC's lone playoff bid. And for this top 12 to come to fruition, what I expect Tuesday night from the committee in these penultimate rankings is Miami to be outside the top 12. If the Hurricanes are inside the top 12, you can push Alabama down to that team as maybe the last team in, so to speak. So Bama and South Carolina right now are kind of on that cut line, depending on what the committee does with the Miami Hurricanes.
All right, Emory, floor is yours. What are your thoughts on Brad's predictions for the upcoming CFP rankings?
I just have a question, because when you look at these rankings right here, you got Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, Bama, these SEC teams. But when we talk about the ACC and how competitive they've been all season, you got SMU, Clemson, Miami, sometimes their defense when they decide to show up. Georgia Tech has played good football, and Notre Dame. So if you rank these ACC teams in conjunction to the SEC squad, how much better is the SEC over the ACC in terms of how they're playing this year? And yes, I slid Notre Dame in there because they want to moonlight as an ACC team, join the conference already. But add them in the mix too, because they've been playing the ACC schedule. How would you rank those two conferences this year on the field play?
Yeah, you know how many ranked wins Clemson, SMU, and Miami have right now? 0. 0 combined ranked wins for those 3 programs. So if you want to throw the Fighting Irish in there, hey, I have no argument there. Notre Dame's a national title contender. They're one of the best teams in football. But the ACC right now does not have an argument to put anywhere near the number of teams the SEC does. Alabama has 3 losses. 2 of them came to ranked teams. Gamecocks have 3 losses. All 3 came to ranked teams. So these kind of programs, elite teams, by the way, are enduring these very challenging schedules. And if South Carolina had not lost 3 games to Bama, Ole Miss, and LSU back in September, the Gamecocks are probably a top 5 team right now. So I think the SEC strength of schedule is going to carry weight with this committee over these final, 2 rankings. So it'll be very interesting. But I don't think the ACC has a foot to stand on when SMU, Miami, and Clemson don't have any ranked wins. And then during rivalry weekend, Georgia beat Georgia Tech, and the Gamecocks beat Clemson.
I will say this, because this is ideally what I wanted. I walked you into the trap, Brad, and here's the trap. If we go to the SEC's preseason rankings, and yes, I gave them the title of sponsorship, because if they rank all 25 SEC teams in the top 6, when they start beating each other, what will people say? They beat a ranked Missouri team. They beat a ranked Vanderbilt team. They beat a ranked Mississippi State team preseason rank. So, of course, they're going to have more ranked wins than everybody else, because everybody always rushes to put at least 9 SEC teams into the top 25. So it's just rearranging the deck chairs when they start beating each other. But when you look pound for pound, SMU is like Miami with a better defense. And Miami has all the offense that they can put out there on the table. Georgia Tech plays an SEC brand of football. It took Georgia 19 overtimes to knock out Georgia Tech. And when you think about the top, Clemson, they got it on late in the season, got hot like South Carolina, just unfortunately lost to South Carolina, which is a great loss for them, but a great win for South Carolina. I just feel like it's closer than what we're being led to believe, because everyone always rushes to put the SEC in these preseason rankings all throughout the top 25.
I mean, how many points, Emory, would Ole Miss score on Miami's defense this year? 55? I mean, Jalen Milroe probably have 200 yards rushing. Lenora Sellers wouldn't be stopped. Miami hasn't stopped a nosebleed this season. 5 games decided by a touchdown or less against ACC teams. Miami's lucky to win 3 of those 5 games. So that's why I think Cam Ward, despite a Heisman-caliber campaign, I think this is going to lead the Canes out of the playoff. And Clemson has now bookended its season with a 31-point loss to Georgia in that season opener, and then lost at home as a favorite against the Gamecocks, had to lead the entire second half and then let Sellers waltz right down the field and score on 3rd and goal from the 16. So Clemson and Miami right now, coming out of rivalry weekend, have 2 bad losses, though Dabo Swinney's team can make up for it next week if they beat SMU.
Shout out to Duke, too. Duke, what, 8-3? And nobody talks about them like this. So ACC got some squads this year. And, again, the thing is, like, I would rather see it play out on the field, and hopefully we get an expanded playoff. But that's only I'm saying that now, but all that's going to do is add more SEC teams in the expanded playoff as well.
Emory, listen, I appreciate you, and fan bases everywhere are thanking you for fighting for them. Because each year we have fan bases that are just complaining about not getting into the playoff. As a Florida State grad, I was guilty of that definitely last year, but that was different. 4 teams versus 12 now. Who's a team, in your opinion, Brad, that should be in the playoff but will end up not getting in?
Yeah, I hate to say this, but it's going to be South Carolina. The Gamecocks do not have the brand recognition needed to make this thing if the team that they're fighting against is one they lost to and one that has won multiple titles in the playoff era. I'm talking about Alabama. That game way back in mid-October, that 2-point loss in Tuscaloosa, that's going to loom large over these final 2 rankings. Now, I say that the Gamecocks have won 6 straight. Bama has not played near as well in November as South Carolina has. So if the committee takes that into consideration, South Carolina on paper right now is the better football team than Alabama. But can you imagine the chaos in Tuscaloosa if South Carolina is voted the last team in over Kalen DeBoer in Alabama? Greg Sankey would lose everything. So I think it's going to be very, very fun to watch this, last unveiling here next Sunday on Selection Sunday and see if Bama or South Carolina is that 3-loss team to make it.
Yeah, listen, I totally agree with Brad. It's going to be South Carolina because pound for pound, if we're being completely honest, keeping it a buck and just basing it off what we've watched as a country this year in the SEC, it's Texas and it's South Carolina as the 2 top teams in the SEC right now. They're playing phenomenal football. I don't care about Texas's schedule. I just like how they play consistently. And you talked about South Carolina dominating A&M, dominating America's team in Vanderbilt. They dominated everyone in the last 6 games. They beat Clemson. So for me, it's South Carolina's fan base is going to be upset. But Miami can be upset too because they'll say, hey, we got 2 losses. We lost to Georgia Tech, who beat Florida State in the opener, who then should have beaten Georgia, and they lost, another game. So at the end of the day, man, both of those teams have say, but South Carolina, I would be upset if, even though they have 3 losses, don't get into the postseason because they're playing outstanding ball.
I agree. I think a lot of people would be as well, and just crazy that a 3-loss Alabama would get in as well. But you know what? They got to fill the spots. They got to fill the spots. Gentlemen, before we say goodbye, conference championship weekend is upon us next week. We're excited for those games to get underway. But who's your early pick to win the national championship? Emory, I'll start with you.
Texas. Texas was my pick in the preseason, and I'm going to stay strong, stand 10 toes down on that right now because, again, they are the most battle-tested team. You think about who's played in the postseason, Quinn Ewers. Any other quarterback that we're talking about now for Penn State, for Ohio State, for Oregon, they hadn't played in the postseason. Ewers has, so he has postseason experience, and their defense is excellent. They play inspired ball on offense. I just like how they're playing as a complete team.
Yeah, I'm going to go Oregon, winning the first title in program history. Dylan Gabriel is the only quarterback in this playoff field, in my opinion, who can threaten this Texas defense. Texas defense played great Saturday night in College Station, shut down Marcel Reed, a couple of turnovers. But I think Oregon is on a mission, the only unbeaten team entering the playoff if they beat Penn State next week. I hate to go chalk here, but at plus 350, Oregon is a good bet right now.
Oh, all right. It's going to be a fun one, that Big Ten championship game, by the way, on CBS. It's going to be a fun one. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. Before we go, some important college football dates that you need to know. Selection Sunday, December 8th. Mark it in your calendar now. We will have live coverage right here on CBS Sports HQ. That first round of the college football playoff will begin on December 20th. And that national title game on January 20th in Atlanta, Georgia. NFL Sunday here at CBS Sports HQ. 1 o'clock games. already underway. Here's a peek at some of the scores at the moment going on around the league. Don't go anywhere, though. We're going to have live highlights, analysis, so much more right here on CBS Sports HQ. And a reminder, you can watch the NFL on CBS or stream on Paramount+.